Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our original Mishnah Berurah here. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel, and Mir Hashem. Today we will be learning Daf Ayin Gimel Amid Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on the bottom line of the Shulchan Aruch Ayin Beis Amid Beis Siman Reish Tzadik Ches, or Reish Ches Tzadi, as the Mechaber writes it. We're in the middle of Sif Aleph, the last three words on Ayin Beis Amid Beis Vahani Mili B'Moitzai Shabbos. Our learning should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Hanusuna Bat Sarah Bashivya, Haim Debein Bayom Ubein Bayabasha, Hamakim Yirachem Aleihem, V'Yetziam Yitzar L'Rvacha Me'afela La'ira Mishiba L'Geula, Hashta Bagala V'Zman Kariv and Nemar Amein. Our learning should be a schus Refuah Shalema. Where did that paper go? For Tzvi and Leah Miriam, and for Chava Hadassah Bas Razel Serol. They should have a refuah shalema. Our learning should also be a schus for Yisrael ben Rachel, Yenison ben Michal, and Yael ben Michal. The Rebbe Shalom should watch over them, together with all of our other brothers and sisters who find themselves in harm's way. B'chol makim shehem. Okay, so we began Siman Reish Ches Tzadik yesterday, speaking about the Ner of Havdalah, the Havdalah candle, and the bracha of Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh that we make as part of Havdalah over the Havdalah candle. And here in the beginning of Sif Aleph, the Mechaber told us that Mevarach ala ner Beirei Ma'irei Ha'eshim yesh loi. If you wouldn't have a Ner Havdalah, so you'll make a bracha of Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh. But ve'ein tzarich lachzer acharav. If you don't have a Havdalah candle, you don't have to go crazy, you don't have to go chasing around to go find a Havdalah candle. In other words, the bracha of Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh is not an integral part of Havdalah. We were misader the bracha of Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh on Motzei Shabbos over a kais as part of Havdalah. That's where it's inserted, but it is not an integral part of Havdalah itself. It's a standalone, really. And therefore, if you have a Havdalah candle, so fine. So you'll make the Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh as part of Havdalah. But if you don't have a Havdalah candle, it's not ma'akiv. You don't have to go running to try and get a candle. But now, says the Mechaber, there is an exception to this rule. V'hani mili b'motzai Shabbos. This is true on a regular Motzei Shabbos. Aval b'motzai Yom Kippurim. But on Motzei Yom Kippur, whether Yom Kippur was on Shabbos or Yom Kippur was on a Tuesday, b'motzai Yom Kippur, on Motzai Yom Kippur, yesh oimrim shemechazer acharav. There are those that say that on Yom Kippur, you do have to go chase down a candle for Havdalah. There's no Mishnah Berurah on this, but take a look at the Be'er Hetiv Ois Aleph, where he writes, why is it that on Motzei Yom Kippur, the bracha of Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh becomes so critical, and you have to chase down a candle if you don't have one? L'hairos, this comes to show, Sheyom Zeh Kadosh Misha'ar Yom Tov. We're trying to show that Yom Kippur has a critical difference between it and any other Yom Tov. Shenesar lahavir ur. On Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to light a fire. You're not allowed to light a lamp for any reason. On Yom Tov, there are cases where you're allowed to make a fire, right? You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. So if it's tzarich oichel nefesh, you could light a flame, l'tzarich oichel nefesh on Yom Tov. Yom Kippur is also Yom Tov, but on Yom Kippur, there's no heter to light a flame at all, not even l'tzarich oichel nefesh. So to highlight that difference, when Yom Kippur is over, and now you're once again allowed to kindle a flame, now on Motzei Yom Kippur, you go ahead, you light a Havdalah candle, and you make a Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh. And now it's critical, even if you don't have a candle, you have to go bimatriach, you have to go work to find one. Okay, says the Ramah, top line here, Ayin Gimel Amid Aleph, Hagah, Mi she'en loy kais lahavdil. Mi she'en loy kais lahavdil. If somebody doesn't have a kais to make Havdalah over, so we've gone through this before in the previous Simanim, what do you do if you don't have yayin, you don't have a chamar medina, so you don't have any beverage that you're able to make Havdalah over, and therefore you can't really make Havdalah now? How does that affect the bracha of Beirei Minei B'samim and Beirei Ma'irei Ha'esh? Says the Ramah, Mi she'en loy kais lahavdil. If somebody does not have a kais to make Havdalah over, and therefore he's not going to be able to make Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos, Kisheraya Ha'esh, when he sees fire, Mavarik alav, he should make a bracha of Bayrei Ma'arei Eish, V'chein habesamim. And so too, if he has a bottle of cloves, so he should make a bracha of Bayrei Mini Besamim. Because again, like I keep on saying, the Bayrei Mini Besamim and the Bayrei Ma'arei Eish are not really integral parts of Havdalah. We were misader them al hakois. The gzeira is, the takana is, that we make the Bayrei Mini Besamim and we make the Bayrei Ma'arei Eish as part of Havdalah over the kois. But they're not an integral part of Havdalah. Havdalah is one thing. The Bayrei Mini Besamim that we make because of the loss of the Neshama Yisera of Shabbos, that's another inyan. And the Bayrei Ma'arei Eish, the bracha that we make to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for the creation of fire that took place on Motzei Shabbos, that's another inyan. There's three separate inyanim. So if you can't make Havdalah because you don't have a kais, you have Besamim, make a Bayrei Mini Besamim. You see a fire, make a Bayrei Ma'arei Eish. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kandalid, Misha ein loy kais. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, all right, you don't have a kais on Motzei Shabbos. Right now, you come home from shul, and you don't have a kais, so you can't make Havdalah. But you want to sit down, Misha ein loy kais. Yeah, you want to sit down to learn. Okay, now when you sit down to learn, especially back in the day, if you sat down to learn, you're going to use a fire, you're going to use a nair to learn. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'mishar sheyizdama loy kais balayla. Let's say you come home, Motzei Shabbos, it's an early winter Shabbos, so let's say you davened Maariv at 6 o'clock, and now you're home. Really, you're supposed to make Havdalah now, but right now you can't make Havdalah because you don't have a kais. But you have company that's coming over at 8 o'clock, and when they come over at 8 o'clock, you know that they're bringing a nice bottle of Cabernet. So at 8 o'clock, you're going to have the ability to make Havdalah, right? So now it's 6:30, and you can't make Havdalah because you don't have any yayin, and you don't have any Chamar Medina. But at 8 o'clock, you're going to be able to make Havdalah. All right. So when you make Havdalah, you're going to make a Bayrei Ma'arei Eish as part of your Havdalah. But now you have a little bit of a problem. The problem is that between 6:30 and 8, you want to sit down and you want to chazer your Dirshu from the past week. So you want to light a nair, and you want to learn by the light of the nair. So it comes out, it's a little bit funny. We just finished saying that the Bayrei Ma'arei Eish is not really an integral part of Havdalah. Really, it could be a standalone. If you don't have the ability to make Havdalah and you have a Havdalah candle, so light the Havdalah candle and make a Bayrei Ma'arei Eish. Now, what's happening now is I can't make Havdalah at 6:30 because at 6:30 I don't have a kais. But at 8 o'clock I'm going to have a kais. So at 8 o'clock I'm going to make Havdalah. But I'm lighting a candle right now in order to sit and learn. So should I make a Bayrei Ma'arei Eish on the candle that I'm lighting now and just do it not as part of Havdalah? Or am I supposed to light the candle now, not make a Bayrei Ma'arei Eish, and then make the Bayrei Ma'arei Eish later as part of Havdalah, even though I'm also lighting a candle now? That's what the Mishnah Berurah is tackling over here. So the Mishnah Berurah says, if your expectation is that you're going to have a kais to make Havdalah over later, but right now you want to light a nair and you want to learn by the light of the nair right now, before you have the kais. Mitzadeh the garden Rabbi Akiva Eiger b'chidushav. Rabbi Akiva Eiger writes in the Chidusha Rabbi Akiva Eiger, Shalo yivarech ata ala nair. You should not make a bracha of Bayrei Ma'arei Eish now on the nair that you light now. V'tov yoser sheyisradreim al hakos. Rather, you should stick to the format that we have from Chazal, which is hold off, make the Bayrei, learn now by your candle, but don't make the Bayrei Ma'arei Eish until later, when you'll make it over the Havdalah candle, and you'll make it al hakos. Okay, going to Sif Beis, second line, Ein Gimel Amud Aleph, middle of the line, says the Mechaber. Mitzvah min hamuvchar, it's the best way to perform the mitzvah, levarech al avuka, to make the bracha of Bayrei Ma'arei Eish over a torch. Now we're going to have to discuss exactly what constitutes a torch, but right now we have the Mechaber. The Mechaber says don't make it just on a simple nair. You should make the bracha of Bayrei Ma'arei Eish al avuka, on a torch. Okay. V'yesh misha omer, there are those that say, she'im ein le avuka, let's say you don't have an avuka. So you come home to make Havdalah, and you don't have a Havdalah candle. You don't have something that constitutes a torch. What do you have? You have a Shabbos candle. You have a regular candle with one wick. So there are those that say if you don't have an avuka, so now you might think, I don't have a Havdalah candle. So what do I have? Well, let's go back in the day. Back in the day, they used fire for illumination. That's the way they lit their homes. So they lit their homes with fire. So a fellow comes home and he wants to make Havdalah. Maybe on the wall of his kitchen, he has a nice sconce with a candle in it for illumination. And it's a regular candle. It's a candle with one wick. Now this fellow comes home and he asks his wife, all right, it's time to make Havdalah. Can you take out the Havdalah candle? His wife says, nope, no more Havdalah candle. Remember, we used it up last week and we forgot to buy another one, so we don't have a Havdalah candle. All right, so we don't have anything that constitutes a torch. But you know what we do have? We have the sconce on the wall in the kitchen that has a candle in it. So the guy reasons, I also have a box of Shabbos candles. But why should I take out another candle and light another candle for Havdalah? I have the candle that's burning in the sconce on the wall of the kitchen. I'll just go over there and I'll make my Borei Meireyesh over there. Why do I have to light a special candle? Says the Mechaber, no. Yesh Misha Omer, there are those that say, Shem Ein Lai Avuka, if you don't have a torch, Tzarich Lahadlik Ner Acher L'Tzarich Havdalah, you have to light a separate ner for the purpose of Havdalah. Chutz mehaner hamayuchad laha'ir babayis, with besides the regular ner that you're using for illumination. So again, the chiddush that the Mechaber is telling you is like this. Really, mitzvah min hamuvchar, you're supposed to use an avuka. You're supposed to use something that constitutes a torch. You don't have an avuka. So you're only going to be able to make a borei ma'orei on a regular candle. You have a regular candle in a lamp of some kind on the wall for illumination. So you just figure, I'll just go over there and I'll make my Borei Meireyesh over there. Says the Mechaber, no. Take out a new candle and light a new candle specifically for Havdalah. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. First Mishnah Berurah is cut in hay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the Mechaber said, Al Avuka, the mitzvah min hamuvchar, the best way to perform the mitzvah is to make the bracha of Borei Meireyesh on a torch. Says the Mishnah Berurah, why? Sha'ora Rav, because it makes a lot of ner. Okay, why is that important? The fact that it makes a lot of light, right? You want a torch because it makes a lot of light. Why do we need a lot of light? So what the Mefarshim say is, we have to realize, when we make the bracha of Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh, let's translate those words. We're thanking the Ribbono Shel Olam, Borei, who created Ma'orei, the lights, plural. Ma'orei is a lashon rabim. The lights, Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh, of the fire. So we're thanking the Ribbono Shel Olam for making the plural, the many lights of a flame. What are the many lights of a flame? Well, when you look at a flame, you'll notice that a flame has several different colors. Usually there's yellow, there's red, or maybe orange, and there's usually a blue also. So there are many different colors in a flame. And that's why we say Ma'orei Ha'esh. It's the multiple lights of the fire. It's not one light, it's multiple lights of different colors. Now, when you have a lamp that's Oira Rav, when you have a big flame, then it's much easier to discern all of these different lights. When you have a tiny little flame burning, it's not so easy to look at that flame and discern that there's a yellow part, there's an orange part, there's a blue part. But when you have a nice, big, substantial flame, then you could see all of the different colors that are in the fire, and then it's appropriate to make the Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh. So that's what the Mishnah Berurah is saying here. Why is it a mitzvah min hamuvchar to make the bracha al avuka? Said the Mishnah Berurah, She'ora Rav, because it has a lot of light. Says the Mishnah Berurah now, v'toiv lahader, we should be mahader, sheyeh shel shaiva. We should use a wax candle. Now he brings this down from the Magen Avraham in the name of the Kavana Sa'ari, and indeed, what most people say is the reason why that we use a wax candle specifically for Havdalah is al pi Kabbalah. It's beyond our pay grade. It's mystical. It's al pi Kabbalah. But the Aruch HaShulchan does bring down a very practical reason why we should use wax, because it's very simple to make a torch out of wax. Take a look at our Havdalah candles. It's really essentially a bunch of different wax candles that are braided together. and that gives us a torch. And the mitzvah min hamuvchar is a torch. So here we have a very easy torch. The Aruch HaShulchan is always very practical. Says the Mishnah Berurah over here, nice cut and base. Oid kasav b'shem Sefer Chasidim. They also write and bring down from the Sefer Chasidim. Lo yikach atzei de mishchan. You should not use oily, fatty wood. Shekarin kin, a type of wood that is called kin. Beloshain Ashkenaz. I really do not know what this is. Mipnei shereichoi ra. This was a type of wood that when you light it, it's a very fatty, oily wood, so it made a nice big flame, and it would seem that that could be considered an avuka, so you might think that it's a good idea to use this kin wood, but the Sefer Chasidim says do not use the kin wood. Why? Because it's malodorous, it has a very unpleasant smell. The Chavetz Chaim says it seems the Chavetz Chaim says it would seem to him that this Sefer Chasidim is talking about a type of wood that when you lit it up and burnt it, it emitted a smell of pitch. Pitch has a very malodorous smell, so somehow this wood, when you burnt it, it gave off the same smell as pitch. Okay, now the Mishnah Berurah has a little bit of a problem with this. When we were learning the halachas of hadlakas teira shel Shabbos, excuse me. So when we were in Siman Reish Samach Daled Siv Zayin Issa, we learned the gam b'ner shel zefes gufa madlikin b'leil Shabbos. We learned that if you make a candle out of zefes, a candle out of pitch, you're allowed to use for Ner shel Shabbos. You're not allowed to use liquefied pitch in an oil lamp on Shabbos because it doesn't draw up the wick well and it doesn't make a nice steady flame. But a candle of zefes, we said you are allowed to use, even though it emits a bad odor. So the Mishnah Berurah is very puzzled by this. On the one hand, the Sefer Chasidim is saying that for Havdalah you can't use a candle of zefes. Why? Because it has a bad smell. But wait a second. For Hadlakas Ner shel Shabbos we could use it. V'chein be'itron shebevadei reichai ra, even itron, tar. We said by the halachas of Hadlakas Ner shel Shabbos, you're not allowed to use itron. But why are you not allowed to use itron? Afilu hachi hayu madliket bay ela ilav mishum shema yaniach v'yetze be'emtza asuda. The only reason we don't use tar for Ner shel Shabbos, it's not because it just has a bad smell and therefore it's not roi for Ner shel Shabbos. No, the reason we don't use it is because we're afraid you're going to leave. We're afraid that you're not going to be able to tolerate the smell of the tar, and therefore you're going to walk away from your Shabbos Suda. That's why we can't use it. But inherently, we said you can use itron, even though it has a bad smell. So again, the problem that Mishnah Berurah is pointing out is like this. Over here we have a Sefer Chasidim that says you can't use this kin wood for Havdalah. Puzzle, you can't use it for Havdalah. Why? Because it has a bad smell. Says the Mishnah Berurah, hold it, wait a second. Zefes, you're allowed to use Zefes for Ner shel Shabbos, even though it has a bad smell. You're allowed to use itron, really. As far as the halachas of Hadlakas Neris, you're allowed to use itron that has a bad smell for Ner shel Shabbos. We don't let you use it because we're afraid you're going to leave the Suda. So it's kind of like it's an ancillary problem. But me'ikar din, as far as the halacha of Hadlakas Ner shel Shabbos, we don't passel itron because it has a bad smell. So why are we passeling this kin wood because it has a bad smell? And the Mishnah Berurah makes the question even stronger. We just learned in Sif Aleph that for Havdalah, if you don't have a ner, you're not mechuyev lachzar acharav. You're not mechuyev to go chase down a ner. So you see that the question of a Havdalah candle is not li'ikuva. It's not such a chiyuv to have a Havdalah candle. But Hadlakas Ner shel Shabbos, that is a chiyuv. So you're telling me that for Hadlakas Ner shel Shabbos, which is mamish a chiyuv, over there you're allowed to use something that's malodorous, like itron or zefes. But for Havdalah, which is not even a chiyuv, the ner is not such a chiyuv, over there you're not allowed to use kin wood because it smells bad? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ulai, possibly what you could say is, the Kavanas HaSefer Chasidim, she'ein zeh min hamuvchar. Sefer Hasidim is not telling you that the kinwood is puzzle because it has a bad smell. He said it's not a mitzvah min hamuvchar. Af she'oiroi rav. You might think that it's a mitzvah min hamuvchar. If somebody came along and learned the halacha and said, we're supposed to use an avuka because an avuka is oiroi rav. Somebody came along and said, mamish, I'm going to do mamish midas chasidus. I'm going to use kinwood. Kinwood makes a lot of light. I'm going to use kinwood. Comes along and Sefer Hasidim, and Sefer Hasidim says, take it easy. Not such a mitzvah in a muvkar to use kinwood. You know why? Yes, it makes a lot of light, but at the same time, it's smelly. Who wants to use a smelly flame for a mitzvah? Is this something that you would be mechabed your a chashuv guest? Would you be mechabed him with a smelly candle? So don't use a smelly candle for Havdalah, even though it makes a lot of light. Avol, but meikradin, loigaria misharner sheina avuka. It's not inherently puzzle. It's like using a candle that's not a torch. The mitzvah in a muvkar for Havdalah is to use a torch. If you don't have a torch, you're allowed to use a candle, right? It's not liikuva. The same thing. The kinwood, it's not puzzle. If you have nothing else, you could use the kinwood, but it's not a mitzvah in a muvkar. And indeed, the Pri Megadim also writes that if you don't have anything else and all you have is this kinwood, you certainly would be allowed to use it. It's just not a mitzvah min hamuvchar. I so brought down, there's another reason why it's not a mitzvah min hamuvchar to use a malodorous candle for Havdalah. Let's remember, what's the bracha that we make right before the Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh? We make a Borei Minei Besamim on pleasant smelling spices. Why? To revive ourselves after the loss of the neshama yisera. So it would be a little bit contraindicated, right? You're going to go ahead and make a bracha Borei Minei Besamim on some pleasant smelling item in order to revive yourself, and then you're going to make a Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh on a malodorous candle, right? It's contraindicated. It doesn't make sense. So that's another reason why it's not a mitzvah min hamuvchar. Ois katan zayin. The Mechaber said, if you don't have an avuka, and you come home, and you have a candle that's burning in the kitchen for illumination, so you might think, all right, I don't have an avuka. I'll make the Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh on the candle that I have burning for light. Why do I have to go take out a new candle and light a new candle for Havdalah? It's not an avuka, it's only a candle. I'll use the candle that's here. Said the Mechaber, no. You have to light a new candle for Havdalah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Katan Zayin l'Sarach Havdalah, v'chol zehu rak l'mitzvah ba'alma. This is, of course, only l'mitzvah ba'alma. It's just to show that I skipped Mishnah Berurah is Katan Vav. Ner acher. The Mechaber said you have to light a separate candle. Misham heker, shu l'shay mitzvah. To make a heker that this candle is being lit l'shay mitzvah. The illumination candle that's lit in your kitchen, it was there before, it's there now. There's no heker, there's nothing that's showing that you lit this candle l'shay mitzvah. You should light a new candle l'shay mitzvah for the purposes of Havdalah. Venera in the Chavetz Chaim says it would seem the Mari ba'ofen she'eni yachal karves hanera zel l'ner shebebeisai. Says the Mishnah Berurah, there's another reason why you have to light another candle, right? The guy doesn't have an avuka, but he has a candle burning for illumination. Comes along the Mechaber, tells you a big chiddush. You have to light another candle. Why? Because you have to light a candle l'shem mitzvah for Havdalah. Points out to Mishnah Berurah, wait a second. If you have a candle burning for light, and you have another box of Shabbos candles, so take out a second candle, light the second candle, join it to the first candle, and now you have an avuka. So l'chayr is another reason why you have to light a special candle, a second candle. Light a second candle in order to make an avuka. Not just light a second candle because you'll use that candle and you want to show that it's l'shem mitzvah instead of using the kitchen candle that's there for illumination. No, light a second candle to create an avuka by putting it next to the first candle. So says the Mishnah Berurah, the answer to that is, must be talking about a case. That wouldn't be a cheshbon. because the candle that's burning for illumination is high up on the wall, and you don't have a step stool to get up there to put the second candle next to it. So that's not a cheshbon. You can't create an avuka. You don't have the ability to create an avuka. You have one candle burning up there on the wall when you can't reach it, and you have one leftover candle in the box of Shabbos candles. And that's it. You don't have any other candles in the house. So you might think, why do I have to light my last candle? I'll just make the Bari Mereish on the light that's up on the wall. Kamash Malon, no. Light the last candle in the box to light it specifically l'shem mitzvah. Okay. L'tzarech Havdalah is cutting Zion. V'chol zehu rak l'mitzvah ba'alma v'loy l'ikuva. Of course, none of this is l'ikuva. None of this makes that we wouldn't be Yotze Havdalah. This is mitzvah ba'alma to do these things. He brings us down from the Maimar Mordechai. Okay, now let's turn over here to the Ramah. Very important Ramah. 4 lines down here on Ein Gimel Amud Aleph. The Mechaber told us that the mitzvah ben Amuvchar is to use an avuka. Now, I translated avuka as torch. What exactly is an avuka? When you think of a torch, I think most people, if you ask them, tell me what's the difference between a torch and a non-torch. This is a torch, this is not a torch. What constitutes a torch? I think most people right away think in their minds, what makes something a torch is that it has a big fire. Okay, so are we going to start measuring? How many inches by how many inches? What's going to constitute a torch? Let me ask you another question. Let's say I have a Shabbos candle. A Shabbos candle is a wax candle with one wick, and it makes a flame, I don't know, about that big. So that's not a torch. Okay, now I'll make a big candle. I'll make a nice big candle. The candle is this wide, and it's this tall, and the wick is a good inch thick and a good 3 inches tall. And I'll light that. That's going to make a big fire. So is that a torch? The Shabbos candle has a little flame. This big honking candle over here with that big wick, that's going to make a big flame. So is that now a torch? Essentially, it's the same thing as the Shabbos candle. It's just bigger, right? Imagine Shabbos candle times 100. So you have a Guinness Book of World Records, the biggest Shabbos candle. But all it is a candle with one solitary wick. It just happens to be a big wick. And it's going to make a nice big flame. So is that now a torch? Says the Ramah, no. Says the Ramah, Haggah. We have to read a little bit between the lines here. Says the Ramah, V'ner, a ner, like the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us, is generally speaking not a candle. When we use ner in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, in the Rishonim, in the Paiskim, when we use the word ner, we're usually referring to an oil lamp, right? An earthenware keli that you pour oil into and you stick in a wick and you light the wick. That's a ner. Says the Ramah, ner sheyesh lo shtei psilos. If you have an oil lamp and you stick in a second wick, so you light 2 wicks now, one oil lamp, but you light 2 wicks. This is mamish. Sounds very much like in Yonah D'Yoma of Chanukah. We're talking about oil lamps and wicks and multiple wicks in one keli. It's like we could easily segue over here right into Hilchas Chanukah. But in any case, says the Ramah, if you have an oil lamp and it has 2 wicks, mikri avuka, that's called an avuka. So what do we know so far? We know we have the Mechaber that says that the mitzvah min hamuvchar for Havdalah is to use an avuka. The Mechaber did not define avuka. The Ramah gives us a definition of avuka. And we're going to see in the Mishnah Berurah, in the Ramah's definition of avuka, there lies a chiddush. We have an oil lamp, and you put in 2 wicks. That constitutes right away an avuka. That's a torch. Now let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah is Katan Ches. V'ner sheyesh lo shtei psilos. An oil lamp that has 2 wicks does haste an avuka. That's a torch. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Stam ner sheb'gamaru paiskim. By default, when we speak about a ner in the language of the Gemara or the language of the Rishonim and the Paiskim, Hainu ner shel shemen. That is usually talking about an oil lamp. So when the Ramah says that if you have a ner and it has 2 wicks, that's an avuka. It's talking about an oil lamp that has 2 wicks in it. The Kamash Malon. And now that we understand that, what the Ramah is teaching us is as follows. What makes this a torch? Let's think about it a second. Let's say this is your oil lamp, right? This cup. Well, imagine that this cup is the oil lamp. And we're going to put in 2 wicks. We're going to put 1 wick on this side of the cup. We're going to put a 2nd wick on that side of the cup. Going to light this wick, going to light that wick. You got 1 flame over here. You have a totally separate flame over here. That's an avuka? That's a torch? What makes that a torch? If you ask me, I look at it and I say, that's 2 flames. It's not 1 unified torch. It's 2 flames. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you have to understand what the Ramah is saying. What the Ramah is saying, Kamash Balon, Dekevan Cha'oireseyan Magian Zela Zela Maila, if you put the 2 wicks in close proximity to each other, then when you light the 2 wicks, the flames are going to go up and the flames are going to join together. So you have 2 wicks that are combining to make 1 large flame. That's what the Ramah is telling you. You want to know what constitutes an avuka? You want to know what constitutes a torch? 2 separate wicks, or 5 separate wicks, or 10 separate wicks, but separate wicks, but the flames that come off of those wicks join together to make a larger flame. Let's see it inside of the Mishnah Berurah. The Kamash Malon, the Kevin Sha'oireseyan Magian Zela Zela Maila, since the flames are going to join together above the tops of the wicks, heavy avuka. That is an avuka. 2 separate wicks, and the flames join on top. Now, let's contrast that to a candle. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Ubener shalanu. When we deal with our kinds of neiros, a.k.a. candles. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Ubener shalanu. But what we call a ner, which is a wax candle, says the Chavetz Chaim, let's say you make a wax candle, imunach sham kama psilos. Let's say you make 1 candle, and you stick a bunch of wicks into 1 candle. Now, when I say you stick a bunch of wicks into 1 candle, what I mean is you take 5 wicks, you don't separate them in the candle. It's not that you have a candle that's this wide, and you have 1 wick here, 1 wick here, 1 wick here, 1 wick here. No, you have a big candle, and you take 5 wicks together, and you stick them into the wax. So now you have 5 wicks coming out of the same exact place in the candle, and you light that. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that's not an avuka. Ubener shalanu, imunach sham kama psilos, if you put in multiple wicks together right next to each other in a candle, hevikamai psila ava. You know what you just did? You made what I spoke about earlier. You made a big fat candle with a big fat wick. The fact that it happens to be 5 individual pieces is meaningless. You're right, it's the wicks happen to be made out of 5 individual pieces. But you stuck them right next to each other. So by doing that, in essence, what you did was you made a candle with a fat wick. A candle with a fat wick is not an avuka. Says the Mishnah Berurah. That's psila ava. All you did was make a big wick. The ene chashuva avuka. That's not an avuka. However, imafrid beineim shava oichelef. But if you have a wax or a tallow candle, and there's wax or tallow separating between 1 wick and the other, so if you make a wax candle that's this wide, it's 6 inches wide, and you stick in 1 wick in the first inch, and another wick in the next a half inch over, and another wick a half inch over, and another wick a half inch over, and now you light them, so you have separate wicks, and now the flames join together on top, that would be an avuka. That's the same as the Ramah's oil lamp with 2 wicks. 2 separate wicks, and the flames join together above. Imafrid beineim shava oichelef, kegoin masha oisin mishava shaneris kluim yachad. How do we make our Havdalah candles? Our Havdalah candles are really individual wax candles, and then they're braided together to form a Havdalah candle. But if you look at the top of your Havdalah candle, what will you see? You will see wax with a wick sticking out. Right next to it, maybe a 1/4 of an inch over, there's more wax with another wick sticking out. A 1/4 of an inch over, there's more wax with another wick sticking out. So you've got multiple wicks, but they're separate. They're all coming out from a different point at the top of the candle. Then when you light them, they join to make a big light, a big flame above. That's an avuka. But if you make a candle and you stick 6 wicks in one clump all together in the center of the candle, that's not an avuka. That's a candle with a thick wick. That is not an avuka. What we do, we take wax. We take wax candles and we braid them together. What a lot of people do, you take 2 Shabbos candles, each one only has 1 wick, and you stick them together. You put them together at the time that you make the Borei Moreish. So now you joined it together, and you have 2 separate wicks coming out, and the flames go together on top. That's called an avuka. Zeu gam kein chashav avuka. But for the Magen Avram, you see that you want that the flames should go together. So when you do that, when you take 2 Shabbos candles and you position them next to each other, in order to create an avuka for Havdalah, you should optimally tilt the candles somewhat so that the flames should, tilt up and hit each other. You want the flames optimally to be joined. So again, it's separate wicks, but joined together on top into one flame. Okay, let's go on to Siv Gimel, and the word I like to use, the nitty-gritty of the bracha of Borei Moreish, exactly what you're supposed to do with your hands by Borei Moreish. Says the Mechaber Siv Gimel. Nayhagid lehistakel bekapois hayadayim. The minig is to look at the palm of your hand, betziparnayim, and at your nails when you make the bracha of Borei Moreish. And we'll get into exactly how you do this in the Mishnah Berurah, but let's see the Ramah first. Hagah, says the Ramah, v'yesh lirois betziparnei yad yamin. You should look at the nails of your right hand. V'lechois hakois biyad smile. And you should be holding the kois in your left hand. We'll have to discuss that a little bit. V'yesh lichboif ha'etzbois l'say chayad. The Ramah says what you should do is you should fold your fingers into your hand. Sha'oz roya betziparnayim im hakapois bebasachas. Because now you'll be able to look at the palm of your hand and at your nails in one shot. V'lo yireh pnei ha'etzbois shebifnim. And don't look at the inside of your fingers. So let's take all of this information together. The Mechaber said that the minig is to look at the palm of your hand and your nails. So a simple reading, it sounds like you have the Havdalah candle and you're going to hold up your hand so you could see the light of the Havdalah candle on your palm. And then maybe you're going to do this so that you could also see the light of Havdalah candle on your nails. That's just a simple reading. Says the Ramah. The Ramah says, first of all, you should look at the nails of your right hand. Second of all, you should be holding the kais in your left hand. And as far as how to look at the reflection of the Havdalah candle, both in your palm and on your nails, says the Ramah, what should you do? You should fold your fingers into your hand. In other words, what you're doing, I'm going to hold it up like this to the camera so you can see how I'm folding. The Mishnah Berurah is going to say that the thumb should be inside. So the thumbs go inside. You fold the 4 fingers over like this. And you do, now, this wouldn't be good for me because I can't look at my palms. I'm looking now at the back of my hands, right? The front of my hands are facing the camera. My eyes are facing the back of my hands. What you do is like this. You hold like this. Let's say this was the Havdalah candle, my lamp over here. You go like this. And now I could see the reflection of the light both in the palm of my hand, below my fingertips, and I could see the nails on the 4 fingers, and I have my thumb inside. Now, the Ramah said that you should only do this with your right hand. The left hand should be holding the kais. That's what the Ramah says. We'll speak about that more in a minute. But that's the method that the Ramah is delineating. Fold your fingers like this to the inside of your hand. Now you could look both in the palm and at the nails at the same time. Let's get a little bit more into the weeds over here. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is cut and test. So first of all, why? Why are we looking at our palms? Why are we looking at our nails? Explains the Mishnah Berurah Tam. When you make the bracha of Boirei Ma'orei Ha'esh, you have to be deriving benefit from the light. Well, how do you know that you're deriving benefit from the light? So we're going to see later that there's kind of a minimum shear of how much light you need to be getting from the Havdalah candle. How much light is that? Enough light that you should be able to discern between one coin and another coin. Okay, does that mean that we should have pennies on the table? Says the Mishnah Berurah, no. That's why we look at our nails. Why? How does looking at our nails help us decide if we have enough light, if that's enough light to discern between one coin and another? Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you could derive enough benefit from the illumination, from the light, ulahakir, so that you should be able to recognize bein matbeya lamatbeya, between one coin and another, kemoi shemakir ben tziporin lebasar. Says the Mishnah Berurah like this. The Mishnah Berurah says that when you look at the reflection of the Havdalah candle and you look at your nails, you have to see if you could discern the point at which the nail, the cuticle ends and the skin begins. Right? That's not so much of a great difference. So you want to look at the light and you want to see, can I see where the nail ends and the skin begins? If you have enough light from the Havdalah candle that you could make out that difference, then you know you have enough light that you would be able to discern bein matbeya lamatbeya. So that's one of the reasons, says the Mishnah Berurah, why we look at our nails by Havdalah. Okay, let's go weiter. Va'oid. Another reason we look at the nails is shatzi pranayim hein siman bracha. Your nails are actually a siman bracha. They're a symbol of blessing. How so? Shehein parais v'ravais la'olam. Growth connotes bracha, right? Growth always connotes blessing. Except for Hanukkah, when you're eating donuts and you're growing in the wrong direction, then it's not really a siman bracha. But generally speaking, we say that we say that growth is a siman bracha. Your nails are constantly growing, and they never stop growing. They're growing while you sleep, they're growing during the day. Your nails are always exhibiting growth, and therefore the nails are a siman bracha. And at the beginning of the week, we want to have a siman bracha, so we look at the nails. Okay. V'gam mistaklim b'kapis yadayim, but we learned that you're also supposed to look at the palm of your hand. Why you look at the palm of your hand? Sheyesh b'sirtutei hayad siman lehisparich boy. Because, says the Mishnah Berurah, says the Chavetz Chaim, and he's not saying this on his own, he brings this down. I saw this. Oh boy, now I'm forgetting. In the Shartzion, does he say? Maybe it's talking the Torah. I saw brought down that what the words of the Chavetz Chaim mean, that the lines on your palm have bracha in them. Now, I don't know if this is like an allusion to the art of palm reading, but somehow there's meaning in the palm. And it's not just that there's meaning in there. Chavetz Chaim says that there is bracha in there. There's siman bracha somehow in those lines. I guess you have to know how to see it. You have to know how to translate it and how to understand it. But there is siman bracha in there, and since there's siman bracha in there and there's siman bracha in the nails, that's why we want to look at them by Havdalah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, exactly how do you do this? The Ramah said, "Lichboif ha'etzbois." We fold the fingers into the head. Says the Mishnah Berurah, "Hainu ha'arba etzbois." This means you fold the four fingers al gav ha'agudel, over the thumb. So you tuck the thumb inside, you fold the four fingers over the thumb. Why should you do it this way? The Ramah said, Sha'oz. The Ramah said you do it that way. That way when you look, you're going to see the nails, right? See, if you turn your hand palm up, now you can't see your nails. Your nails are facing the floor. So you got to fold your fingers in so that the nails should be facing you. But you want the palm to be up so that you can see the inside of the palm. Why exactly you fold the thumb inside, that I don't know. But the Mishnah Berurah says you fold the thumb inside, you fold the fingers over the thumb, and now you could look at the reflection of the light in the nails to see if you could discern between the cuticle and the skin, and because the nails are a siman bracha, you could also look at the palm because the lines of the palm are a siman bracha. So again, says the Mishnah Berurah, is cutting it off. V'yesh noyagim, there are those that have the minig, lifshoit achar kacha arba etzbois, after you do this, the Ramah said with the right hand, after you do this, you make the bracha, you look at the nails, you look at the palms. There are those that are noyig, that after you do that, lifshoit achar kacha arba etzbois, to then open up the four fingers, and now to look at the back of the fingers and to look at the nails. So that would mean you start off doing this, and then you do that. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says. Yesh noyagim, to do that. He does not say why, but he brings it down to Magen Avram b'shem Sefer HaKavanos. So I'm sure that this is stuff that's beyond our pay grade. So I just want to take another minute to wrap this up over here. And especially if we go back to what we learned, I think it was in Reish Tzadik Vav, the mashmois of the Mishnah Berurah in Siman Reish Tzadik Vav in Sif Vav. Yes, Mishnah Berurah. Siman Reish Tzadik Vav. Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Lamed Aleph. That's on Ayin Aleph Amud Beis. I pointed this out when we learned the Mishnah Berurah. From the Mishnah Berurah, it's very clear that you look before you make the bracha. There are those that disagree. We spoke about this back then. There are those that disagree who hold that you don't look before you make the bracha. You look after you make the bracha. Because even though it's not really a Birchas Hananin, but it's compared to a Birchas Hananin, and by a Birchas Hananin, you always first make the bracha and then get the Hana. So the Mishnah Berurah says, look at the nails first and then make the bracha of Bayir Maria Eish, I guess, while you're looking, and continue to look. Others say no. Don't look until you make the bracha. But you definitely should do this first, because you don't want a hefsek between the bracha and the looking. So do this. Don't look at your nails yet. Don't look at your palm yet. Just get ready. Do this, face the Havdalah candle, and then go ahead and look. Look where? Look at the nails, look in the palm, and then do that. And look at the back of the nails from the back of the hand. Now, the Ramah said that you should look at the nails of the right hand, and that in your left hand, you should be holding the kais. Now, why are you looking at the right hand? So first of all, it's like we've said earlier, we have this rule that whenever you make a bracha, you want to hold the bracha in the right hand. So if you're drinking a cup of water, making a sha'akal, you hold the water in the right hand. When you're making the bracha of Bari Mina B'samim, you hold the B'samim in your right hand. When you make the Bari Pragafen, you hold the wine in your right hand. So when you make the Bari Maria Eish, you use your right hand. Then the implication of the Ramah is that you look only at the right hand, especially since the Ramah says that the left hand is busy holding the kais. The Aruch HaShulchan says, straight out, only look at the right hand, don't look at the left hand. Now, there's a reason why the Aruch HaShulchan has to say it. You might say, hello, Aruch HaShulchan, you don't have to tell me that I shouldn't look at the left hand. The left hand is busy holding the kais. But remember what we learned earlier in Siman Reish Tzadik Vav. Back in Reish Tzadik Vav, by the bracha of Bari Mina B'samim, the Mechaber said that when you make the bracha of Bari Mina B'samim, you should hold the B'samim in the right hand and the kais in the left hand. Came along the Aruch HaShulchan and said, no, you don't need to hold the kais in the left hand. The point of the Mechaber is that when you make the Bari Mina B'samim, you have to hold the B'samim in your right hand because you're making the bracha over the B'samim, so the B'samim have to be in your right hand. The kais, put the kais down on the table. You don't have to hold the kais in your left hand. You have to make the bracha of Bari Mina B'samim al hakais. The Mishnah Berurah said, since you're making it al hakais, you have to hold the kais. The Aruch HaShulchan said, you don't have to hold the kais. Put the kais on the table. The kais is in front of you. That's called al hakais. You don't have to be holding it. So the Aruch HaShulchan said by the B'samim, hold the B'samim in your right hand. The kais could be on the table. L'chayra, that would apply over here too, by the Bari Maria Eish. Even though the Ramah over here says that you should be holding the kais in your left hand, I believe that the Aruch HaShulchan would say that that's lav dafka. He doesn't point it out over here, the Aruch HaShulchan. I want to be straight about that. The Aruch HaShulchan doesn't say it here. But I would say that the Aruch HaShulchan holds that here also, you don't have to make the Bari Meri H while you're holding your kais in your left hand. Why does the Ramah say hold the kais in your left hand? Because what the Ramah is telling you is, until now, you were holding the kais in your right hand. Well, not really. In the beginning, you were holding the kais in your right hand, right? Then you shifted the kais in order to hold the psamim in your right hand. So if you put the kais in your left hand when you went to make the psamim, so weiter, the kais will be in your left hand, and the Bari Meri H you'll do with your right hand. But the point is only that the psamim have to be in your right hand by Bari Mina psamim, and you have to do the Bari Meri H with your right hand when you make the Bari Meri H. Where the kais is irrelevant. Now, since the Aruch HaShulchan holds that you do not have to be holding the kais in your left hand, that's why the Aruch HaShulchan goes out of his way and he tells you that al pi Kabbalah, even though your left hand is also available, you should only look at the nair in your right hand, not in your left hand. There are those who disagree. There are those that say that you should look at the light both in your right hand and both in your left hand. That's what I personally was makabel from my Rebbe, Rebbe Feinstein. I was makabel from him that what I do is, again, like I told you when we were speaking about Besamim, I start off Havdalah holding the kais in my right hand. After, when I'm ready to make the Bari Mina Besamim, I put down the kais, I pick up the Besamim in my right hand, I make the bracha on the Besamim, the kais is on the table. Then I use both hands for the Bari Meri Eish, and then when I'm finished with the Bari Meri Eish, then I pick up the kais again in my right hand for the bracha of Hamavdil. Okay? We're going to stop over here. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The source of limud HaTorah should be Megan against Klal Yisrael, the Rebbe Hashem should send. Yeshua's for force, Parnasset, Shetuchim, to those in need. We should be zeichet to see the Bias Kail Tzedek, B'mehera v'yameinu, Amen. Be well.